right, good morning, everybody. This is the Fantasy Sports Boss. Welcome to the Fantasy Sports Boss podcast. It is Sunday, September 15th, 2024. Very, very busy day today. Podcast dropping first. Going to have a live stream around 11:15 Eastern time this morning. And then, of course, all of the trimmings that go along with week 2, the instant injury update videos. Also, I like to chime in with any kind of big performances that are going on as well, themes of the day. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. So I'm going to go through all the games today, my thoughts on each of them. But right at the top, wanted to discuss some of the injury issues that are going to be impacting week 2. And certainly there's a lot of them. I've done enough on the Christian McCaffrey thing. I don't think I need to talk about that anymore. We all know what the situation there. You can just check out the video I posted yesterday about that. But there are a slew of other, particularly at the wide receiver position, that's got week 2 kind of in a flux. And A.J. Brown listed as questionable with a hamstring injury. This is very concerning on a number of fronts for Monday Night Football against the Atlanta Falcons. So apparently Brown came up with this injury toward the latter part of the week preparing for the Falcons game. I believe it was Friday. That's when he first popped up on the injury report. He was a limited participant on Friday, held out Saturday. Of course, Saturday is like the Friday practice when you play on Monday Night Football. So this is like a legit concern here. And usually when players come down with these soft tissue injuries during the course of the week, they wind up not playing. So I would say it's 50-50. A.J. Brown, though, has always toughed out injuries. So I'm not going to say he's definitely out, even though historically these things tend to go the wrong way when a player comes down with a soft tissue injury towards the latter part of the week. So listen, if you have stock in Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert for that matter, those guys obviously will take a step up in value. And then Jahan Dotson could possibly be dusted off in a deeper league if you really need somebody. But here's the problem too, Monday Night Football, if you can, put A.J. Brown in that flex spot, right? Don't leave him in the receiver spot because then you're really restricting yourself in terms of replacement. Anybody who had Christian McCaffrey in the running back spot last week found that out because you couldn't, if he was in flex, you could have put it on Lazard, you could have put in, Kyle Juszczyk, anybody to get any sort of points instead of taking a 0. So make sure you have A.J. Brown in that flex spot as a result of this. And I'm sure we're going to get more clarity on this today because usually the day before we get information about that, unless you're the San Francisco 49ers who bullshit their way through the injury report and are now going to get called out on the carpet for it. The other big one is Hollywood Brown, not expected to play in 2024. So Hollywood Brown is done, so feel safe to drop him. And now the biggest takeaway is anybody who drafted Xavier Worthy is going to rejoice because now Xavier Worthy is going to be consistently used. I know he only got 3 touches last week, but 2 went for touchdowns. They're going to start getting him more heavily involved, especially when you get him out in space. Like, it's almost death for a defense because he is that explosive. Like, he's even faster than Tyreek Hill. So, and we all know how great Tyreek Hill was in that offense. So, Xavier Worthy stock going way up now as a result of what happened with Hollywood Brown. Jordan Love, doubtful for this week. He was never going to play. And again, this is another instance of a coach trying to be a wise guy. Matt LaFleur trying to, but maybe he's going to play. He was never going to play. Like, they're not going to do that to their franchise quarterback who they just signed to that ridiculous contract. All right. So, it's not, there was no feasible way he was going to play. So, Jaden Reed is also banged up. He will go today, but I'm benching everybody in this Green Bay offense. Everybody, except for Josh Jacobs. Like, they're going to use Josh Jacobs a lot, but he's going to have a tough time too because they're going to stack the box against him. He looked good. He got off to a slow start last week, talking about Josh Jacobs, and then the second half he looked better. It's going to be tough for the Green Bay Packers going forward. We talked about Christian McCaffrey, and again, it could be week 10 before he comes back. They have to bye week 9. Utter disaster for McCaffrey owners, no doubt about it. Keenan Allen and Rome Odunze, particularly Keenan Allen, going to be game time decisions. Allen, if he plays, will not play a full allotment of snaps, so I'm benching Keenan Allen everywhere. All right, I have him in one league, underwhelmed by the entire offense last week, but I'm benching Keenan Allen everywhere. And if you're a DJ Moore owner, he should theoretically get more looks, right? Cole Kmet in a deeper league. So that's the only real positive you can take away there. We need to see more from Caleb Williams, right? He's got it wasn't good last week. The whole Deshaun Watson thing, I'm not going to get into that. I just don't want to waste any oxygen on that scumbag, honestly. It's just ridiculous that this guy... And you know what? We're in a situation now where the Browns have to be so disgusted with his play and there's a clause in his contract. If there is just cause, maybe this is the incident with this latest report of a woman suing him for improper behavior. They can get out of the guaranteed money of that contract. So maybe the Browns, like, secretly behind the scenes now, I would be like, okay, maybe we can get out of this ridiculous contract, as they watch Baker Mayfield throw 4 touchdowns last week. I mean, it's amazing how these teams just bungle this quarterback position. All right, next thing is the weather. Really only one game stands out today. That's the Browns at Jacksonville. There's expected to be rain and moderate winds, all right? 15 to 18 mile per hour winds, which, you know, it is enough to impact the kicking game, certainly, and then maybe the deep passing game. Obviously, Trevor Lawrence didn't play well. The offense in general did not play well. I think there's going to be more underneath throws to Evan Engram. I expect Evan Engram to have a bounce-back game this week. Brian Thomas Jr. obviously already entering the circle of trust, whereas Christian Kirk, his usage was down, and we didn't talk enough about that. There were hints that reports during the summer that Christian Kirk would be adversely affected by Brian Thomas's arrival, and certainly that took place week 1. Now we have a 40% chance of rain, 15 to 18 mile an hour winds. It's not the most ideal setup for this Browns, and you're benching all the Browns anyway. I mean, other than Amari Cooper, you have to play Amari Cooper, like, you're stuck. But they don't have David Njoku. It's really getting ugly quickly in Cleveland. All right, let's go through the schedule today. Mostly 1 o'clock games, Eastern time. There's 3, 4 o'clock games, of course, highlighted by the Chiefs and Bengals. We'll start off with the Jets and the Tennessee Titans. Obviously, the Jets had a tough game last week against a very strong San Francisco team. The defense, the Jets need to run the ball a little bit better. Stop the run a little bit better. That's been the big problem for them. They gave up all those yards to Jordan Mason. Tony Pollard, I mean, you would start Tony Pollard this week because it's a good matchup, because, you know, the Jets defense, as good as it is, the strength lies in stopping the pass, right? And now Sauce Gardner is starting to travel with the team's top receiver, and I think that's going to be Calvin Ridley this week. So if you own Calvin Ridley, try to do better. Maybe bench him outright. I think DeAndre Hopkins will get a little bit more work now that he's more healthy. But Tony Pollard is the start here against the Jets. And really, Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, they're going to be found, you know, they're going to be their usual stud selves in this one. But the Jets need to get other players involved. Like, it was really Hall, Garrett Wilson, and nobody else touched the ball basically last week. So they need to get more involved here. And you start Aaron Rodgers this week as well against Tennessee. And then the Jets have a short week. They're going to take on the Patriots next week. So it's very imperative that they get the win. Both teams looking to avoid 0-2. Will Levis, I mean, he was just awful last week. Too early to say it's going to go all wrong there. He's a hell of an athlete. Like, he's got a great arm. He can run. Like, he's got the tools. But so, you know, that was Jay Cutler as well. And Jay Cutler never really amounted to anything. The Giants at Washington already calls for Daniel Jones to be benched. This could be his last stand. We could be seeing Drew Lock next week, and that's not an enticing proposition either. And here's the thing. There's only 3 teams in the NFL right now where if they bench their starter, their odds of making the playoffs would improve. The Giants are one of those teams, and they're the only team of those 3 where they have the veteran quarterback, not a young first or second year quarterback. All right, Carolina is the other, and so is Tennessee, Will Levis. So that's very telling. You know, Daniel Jones, again, he won a road playoff game. He played well in that game against the Vikings. He threw 24 touchdowns his first year as a starter. He's got ability. He ran for over 700 yards a couple of years ago. He can definitely, you know, move the football when all things are copacetic in the offense. Well, the problem here is that I think Daniel Jones is going down the David Carr road of being shell-shocked from all the hits, all the sacks. There was a stat that I saw where David Carr, who of course drafted number 1 by Houston, had his career ruined, taking 200-something sacks his first 3-4 years in the league. The sack percentage of Carr above Jones is not that much of a difference. So it shows you how much Daniel Jones has been hit. Maybe he's starting to look at the rush. Possibly he's got the happy feet now. I think Daniel Jones looks like a guy who's not seeing ghosts, not going to say that, but he's looking at the defense now. He's looking at the rush. He's not going through his reads. And so Drew Lock could be starting as soon as next week, which is not a great thing either. Like, if Tyrod Taylor was still with the Giants, I'd say, okay, you know, he can move the ball. Tyrod Taylor's the best backup in the league. He can move an offense. Drew Lock, we've seen this before. He just doesn't. He's got a strong arm. He's got no accuracy. So, you know, if you're a Malik Neighbors owner, maybe that unlocks the deeper passing game. But, you know, Malik Neighbors is that classic example of a great talent who's going to be underutilized due to the shortcomings of their quarterback. Now, as far as Washington is concerned, obviously you're starting Jaden Daniels, and I am starting him in one league. It's going to be heavy on the runs. He's got to learn to get out of bounds better. He's taken a lot of hits already. He's not going to make it to the full season. It's just not going to happen. He's going to get hurt at some point, but he's got to get Terry McLaurin more involved. We talked about Terry McLaurin, who's really can only be graded as a wide receiver 3 at best right now. Austin Eckler, barely involved running the football. He had only 2 carries last week. So now we've seen that Brian Robinson Jr. will be the primary back. So Brian Robinson, who was cheap in drafts this year, not going to do much in a passing game. That's what Eckler's for. Eckler caught 4 balls last week. That is going to be the strength right now for Brian Robinson Jr., who scored a touchdown. I think he's going to be, quietly a threat to lead the NFL in touchdowns. So that's something that we need to take a look at here. All right, Cleveland at Jacksonville. We already talked about this game. I think Evan Ingram's going to get more involved. The weather's going to be a little rough. You're benching every Cleveland Brown player outside of Amari Cooper, and even that is not a great scenario. The offense just looks terrible. I mean, it just looks beyond horrendous. And you start to wonder too that Rome Odunze is tracking to play today, according to Adam Schefter. So at least we got some clarity there. You start to wonder how much DeAndre Hopkins in Houston propped up Deshaun Watson, right? I mean, DeAndre Hopkins, those first 5 years in the league were just insane. How much did he prop up the true abilities of Deshaun Watson? That's what you have to wonder there. Indianapolis at Green Bay, so Malik Willis will start. You bench every Green Bay Packer not named Josh Jacobs. If Malik Willis goes out there and throws for 200 yards and 2 touchdowns, so be it. I mean, but we've seen how much he has struggled in the past when he's been the starting quarterback in Tennessee. I'm not going there. I'm not doing that. Indianapolis, Anthony Richardson could easily win a fantasy owner his league this year just because how dominant he was. He put up, I believe, 30 points last week, and he did not throw the ball well. He completed less than half of his passes, but he ran liberally like expected. He's just a true freak. So it goes to show you when he does have that good game passing, it's scary to think about where the numbers could go. Now, Josh Downs could play today. You're not using him right off the bat. Jonathan Taylor was the bell cow. All right, so that's it. Jonathan Taylor's the guy, but how many passes is he going to catch in this offense? That's the only thing. Michael Pittman needs to get in the end zone more. LA Chargers at Carolina. Listen, the Chargers have a chance here to get off to a 2-0 start. I mean, Jim Harbaugh knows what he's doing. All right, I like the way the offense operated last week. J.K. Dobbins showed he still has it, right? All of those injuries, the ACL, the Achilles, he still has that speed. And I know he always seems to get caught like around the 10-yard line when he breaks free, but I think it's going to remain a 50-50 share between the two of them. I think Gus Edwards is going to get his opportunities around the goal line, but J.K. Dobbins is going to be the third down passing back. And Ladd McConkey had a good game. So Ladd McConkey in a PPR league could be a wide receiver 3. Justin Herbert, they threw the ball a little bit more than you anticipated as well. So Justin Herbert, who's unbelievably went undrafted in some leagues, even though he's literally a top 7 talent at quarterback. Justin Herbert, if you're in need of a quarterback, pick him up. Like, this offense, I think, is going places. It's a good game script for J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards to a lesser extent today because they should be able to handle Carolina. Listen, it may go down as one of the worst draft decisions we have ever seen. Carolina taking Bryce Young over C.J. Stroud. I mean, anybody in that front office who was around when that decision was made should be fired. Like, there should be none of them left. You can't have any confidence in your scouts and your front office personnel for making such a colossal blunder. Like, C.J. Stroud, as awesome as he's been, the polar opposite is Bryce Young. He's just has not progressed. I mean, let's see what he does today, but damn. I mean, Deontay Johnson, who I thought was going to catch a ton of passes in this offense. I mean, I do trust Dave Canales, but even he can't make this quarterback hit he can't hit a broadside of a barn. Like, it's that bad. And you're benching every running back. You're benching everybody. Like, if you own Deontay Johnson, you want to put him in a flex, be my guest. But, man, it is getting ugly early. Las Vegas at Baltimore. Lamar Jackson ran a ton last week, and he took a lot of hits. All right? They lost that game by the length of a toe. Now, does that cost them a home playoff game? It very well could down the line. Isaiah Likely, that's one of the themes I'm looking at today. There's a lot of things, every week there's subject matter that I'm really paying attention to. I'm really paying attention to the Likely Mark Andrews situation, how they're deployed. Are they both going to be on the field together again like they were last week? Did Mark Andrews get back involved? I think Andrews was rusty. He had the accident in the summer. I'm not worried about him yet. Isaiah Likely is the key, though. Is if he continues to play as much as he played last week and be involved in the offense as much as he was, then you have a stud tight end that went as a late-round pick. All right, no, we all know the ability is there. And, it's really Zay Flowers and nobody else in this passing attack. Rashad Bateman just doesn't have any sort of consistency. And it's that could be key if you drafted Isaiah. There's certain players every year that when you draft late could tilt the league. Xavier Worthy, Isaiah Likely, Jordan Mason, those are the players so far this season. And as far as the Raiders are concerned, bad game from them last week. Zamir White is not going to be used in a passing game. He needs a positive game script. He's in that running back 2-3 zone. Since he's not involved in a passing game, it's really hard for Zamir White on a team that's going to be one of the worst teams in the NFL this year. It's going to be hard for Zamir White to make value this year. All right, New Orleans at Dallas. I'm intrigued by this. So Derek Carr, as much as we all like to rag on Derek Carr, if you look at his per-game production, not only in the opener, but the last 5 games of last season, he's been a top 5 quarterback in fantasy. Go look at the numbers. He's been throwing touchdowns at a ridiculous clip. Alvin Kamara looked great in week 1. He looked fresh. Taysom Hill was involved, although he didn't put up a lot of points. There was no reason to really use him because the Saints went up big. Chris Olave, though, has got to get off this. 2 catches in a 47-point game. That was almost impossible to believe. But that's a really good sign for this New Orleans offense, which, I had a lot of concerns about because of the state of the offensive line. Now, they're going to have a more stiffer test today against Dallas. Didn't have to get CeeDee Lamb much involved last week. It looked like Rico Dowdle and Ezekiel Elliott are splitting work right now. I think Dowdle, hold on to him. Don't cut him yet because I think eventually he's going to overtake Elliott there. San Francisco at Minnesota, not going to go, again, over the Christian McCaffrey situation, but you're starting Jordan Mason. Enjoyed that gift because it is a gift. Sam Darnold, we could see the true Sam Darnold today against this tough San Francisco defense. Jordan Addison not playing. You're playing Aaron Jones. Could be a tougher game for him after the cakewalk last week. Justin Jefferson didn't do much against Deonte Banks, Giants cornerback, one of the few bright spots on that team. But obviously you're putting Jefferson out there, no problem. Seattle at New England. So New England with the biggest surprise win last week. And Ramondre Stevenson is the bell cow. The Antonio Gibson is just strictly a pass receiving back now. So that's a good sign if you drafted Ramondre Stevenson at cost. I like the way the offense ran with Jacoby Brissett. And on the flip side here, you have Seattle, who really needs to get DK Metcalf more involved after he did virtually nothing against Patrick Surtain. So if you look at that, Patrick Surtain, Sauce Gardner, those are the 2 premier cover quarterbacks in the NFL. I think DK Metcalf will be fine, though. Zach Charbonnet will get the start. Kenneth Walker is out, or he's doubtful, but I don't think he's playing with the abdominal injury. And Zach Charbonnet is a top 12 running back this week. He's a very, very good receiver out of the backfield. He can run. He's going to be heavily used today. I think you definitely start Zach Charbonnet this week. And again, it's another reminder why Kenneth Walker, every year I fade him. Even though I like the reports coming out this summer that he was going to be used as a bell cow back, he just can't physically stay healthy. It's just a fact. It took 1 game already. Tampa Bay at Detroit. Baker Mayfield 4 touchdown passes last week. This one could get crazy with the points. I think Amon-Ra St. Brown will get back on the sled this week. Jameson Williams. Let's see if that, and that's another subject I'm looking at this week. Does Jameson Williams put a consistent effort this week? Is he going to be too hot and cold for us to depend on a weekly basis, or is he going to put consistent performances in week after week after week? All right. Tampa Bay, this offense still looks good. I have my concerns with Canales gone, new staff new offensive coordinator coming in, but Baker Mayfield looked great. And Mike Evans did his usual thing. Chris Godwin getting involved in the slot. That's a good sign for Chris Godwin. But here's the key. Rachaad White was miserable last week. He barely averaged over 2 yards per carry. I'm not talking about his usage in a passing game. Bucky Irving's time is coming. Hold Bucky Irving, pick him up if he's available. His time is coming. He's the more explosive runner. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. I'm going to say this right now. I think by the second half of the season, it's Bucky Irving's job. LA Rams at Arizona, starting the 4 o'clock slate there. Arizona's got to get, for a team that scored 30 points last week, there was a lot of unhappy people in this offense. Marvin Harrison Jr., Trey McBride. They got to get these guys more involved. If Greg Dortch is going to lead this team in receiving, then F me on Trey McBride, who I own in 2 leagues. I think Marvin Harrison Jr., He's way too talented to not be involved like he was last week. James Conner will continue to be the bell cow back. And then the LA Rams. So this morning, Puka Nacua is now expected to miss 5 to 7 games with his knee injury. 5 to 7 games. So Cooper Kupp, 2021, if he can stay healthy, that's a key as well with Cooper Kupp. And I have him in one league. It's going to be fun. Strap in, because this is a top 5 PPR receiver as long as Nacua is out, and even when Nacua returns. And if you draft it tomorrow, Cooper Kupp is a late first-round pick. All right, Cincinnati at Kansas City could be 0-2 for the Bengals today. I don't think they're going to win this game. T. Higgins is doubtful. Jamar Chase is not happy. They watched, Joe Mixon put up a huge performance for Houston last week. The Chase Brown truthers, it's not happening yet. Zach Moss is the guy at running back, and he played fairly well last week. But Joe Burrow, is he hurt? Is he more hurt than he's letting on? It's possible. But this is not the start you envisioned there. Whereas Kansas City, Pat Mahomes, it wasn't a Pat Mahomes game last week, but it's fine. Xavier Worthy is a thing. Travis Kelce needs to get more involved, and Isaiah Pacheco, who scores pretty much every game now, he's going to have a big season. Pittsburgh at Denver, Justin Fields getting the start. Bo Nix played terribly. He was named a captain as a rookie, which I thought was kind of ridiculous, but did not play well last week. Cortland Sutton has been neutered in this offense already. I think that's going to continue. The running game is a mess. Javonte Williams couldn't do anything. Jaleel McLaughlin actually touched the ball more. If you're a Javonte Williams owner, you can't play him, especially against this very tough defense of the Steelers. Justin Fields, again, getting the start. This could be his job if he plays well again today. But tread carefully with George Pickens, who gets Patrick Surtain. Chicago at Houston tonight. Let's see Caleb Williams under the bright lights against C.J. Stroud, who had arguably one of the greatest rookie performances from a quarterback ever. All 3 receivers got involved last week. Tank Dell, Stephon Diggs, Nico Collins. I think they're all going to take turns each week being the guy. So it's not ideal, but you're starting all 3 guys for sure. And then Atlanta and Philadelphia. What is going on with Kirk Cousins? Is he hurt still? He was just awful last week. It was that bad to the point that whispers are already beginning about Michael Penix Jr. So, for the sake of Drake London, for the sake of Kyle Pitts, and I got Drake London in 3 teams. I really need to see something out of Kirk Cousins this morning. So anyway, guys, make sure you hit that subscribe button. A lot of videos coming out this week. Stay tuned for all that, and I will chat with all of you later during the live stream.